Communication is one of the most important aspects and one of the most essential and vital result of human life, and also almost all outcomes, results, structures, values, and norms, including social norms, cultural norms, scientific norms, and also different aspects of knowledge and academic aspects, and also different structures in human lives are the income and result of durable and effective communication among human beings and societies. And also, communication is one of the real and the main way in career of knowledge, information, experiences, and different issues among and between human beings and human societies. But language as the main medium that enable individuals, people in society to interact with one another or have different aspects and types of communication is the most important factor that affect interactions among different people. Actually, when individuals interact in the type of interpersonal communication or professional communication or intercultural communication, or a group of people interact in the case or style of intergroup communication, or even societies interact with one another in the case of mass communication or intergroup communication, they use language as the main medium of their interactions. But always they do not use the verbal or spoken language. We have two kinds of symbols and facilities that use to transfer our messages to one another, and especially individuals and people use two types and two kinds of language and symbols and facilities to transfer their messages, or receive messages, or interact and communicate with one another, which are the first one is verbal and spoken language, or verbal and spoken communication. It means that people use the spoken type of communication or language when interact with one another, and it is of course the most effective and important kind of communication when people use the spoken language and verbal language and verbal type of communication, because they have the opportunity to transfer their ideas clearly and receive the ideas in the different symbols, words, sentences, and paragraphs. And they speak clearly and also listen to the answers and feedbacks for different messages of their partners. But sometimes people may be not able or may prefer to use non-verbal type of communication or non-spoken kind of communication, especially in the technical works, and also in some areas like traffic norms, and also in the media production processes when news presenter and also technical people in the studios, they just use some particular signals and some particular signs to start their work or to continue their work. And also in the ordinary life or daily life among people, they use different kinds of gestures or signs or facial expressions or different aspects of non-verbal and non-spoken languages. That's why when we interact with one another or each other, we use both spoken and non-spoken, or verbal and non-verbal kind of communications. And also when we interact and have communications with one another, we have either the direct communication without the mediation of any tool or medium, or we have mediated kind of communication. But the most important and most effective kind of communication is face-to-face and direct communication, because besides transformation of messages through words, we can see our facial expressions and know some things which is we have to know just, and we cannot transfer through words. And we can also feel the emotional states and responses of one another during direct and face-to-face communication. But sometimes, because of time limitations and distance limitations in some things, we may not be able to have direct and face-to-face communication. That's why the communication procedure through the use of some particular technologies and tools enable human beings to have an alternative, which is the indirect or mediated kind of communication. It's also important and useful. We can communicate through the use of different aspects of communicative technology or communication technology through the use of social media, telephone, email, different kinds of medium that enable us to interact with people without the consideration of distance or time. We can send our messages to different people throughout the world. That's why when we interact, when we do communications, we have different kinds of communications. We have spoken and verbal communications through the use of spoken and verbal aspects of language, and also we have non-verbal and non-spoken communications. We just use some gestures, some signs and symbols, face expressions, and also we have direct communications face-to-face with one another or each other, and also in case of time and distance limitations and problems, we have the ability to have indirect communication or mediated communication through the use of helpful technologies. That's why we have different opportunities to have interactions with one another. Even states, nations, societies can have interactions with one another, with each other, through the use of different aspects of communication technology and different kinds of human communication. And human communication is actually one of the most important and effective way and tool that enable individuals, societies, and nations to interact with one another, to transfer and inform each other, and transfer their skills, knowledge, and also exchange their experiences, knowledge, and information, and start and continue some helpful human relationships. I'm Dr. Abdul Qahar Sarwari. If you think such videos are helpful, please subscribe the channel. Thank you.